This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Thursday, the 1st day of December in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, German Figuera of the APNU-AFC, has complained to the National Assembly that the PP civic government has been stalling the work of the Public Accounts Committee in an attempt to prevent scrutiny of its management of the country's resources. Mr. Figuera at the time was moving a motion for the adoption of the committee's report on the public accounts of Guyana for 2016. In firing back at those allegations, the government accused the APNU-AFC of trying to shy away from its poor management of the country, as reflected in the 2016 report. Pointing to the fact that the report is more than 5 years old, the PAC chairman, German Figuera, told the National Assembly that the government has little interest in good governance, transparency, and accountability, and has deliberately set out to slow down the work of the Public Accounts Committee at this time.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that actions were met out in this House to slow, to stymie, to hinder and unsettle the work of the PAC by the government. That is against looking at the Auditor General's report 2 years at a time. Something that was done as far back, Mr. Speaker, as 2010. Mr. Speaker, this strategy to intentionally stall the work of the PAC by not having its members available to get the new quorum, the very quorum that the PPP imposed on this committee by the tyranny of their one-seat majority.
Mr. Figuera said since the imposition of the new quorum requirement for PAC meetings, 5 meetings have been cancelled because of the absence of PP civic members. He said at the current pace, the 2020 report may be laid in the House in 2030.
Mr. Speaker, in essence, the PPP wants the current year's issues in the Auditor General's report to be interrogated when the interests in those issues have waited, in the hope that the population will not take an interest in them anymore. The PPP refused to meet more than once per week to get through a single event, as they are against examining 2 years together. Mr. Speaker, sir, how else can one describe the PPP setting a quorum that 2 members on each side must be present to start a PAC meeting, but increasingly only one of its 5 members avail themselves?
Declaring that the government was being hypocritical with its approach to public accounts, the PAC chairman recalled that while in opposition, the PP Civic's chief whip, Gil Teixeira, had objected to the presence of ministers on the Public Accounts Committee. He said today the work of the committee is stalled because of ministers being absent. But Minister of Public Works Juan Edgel said instead of addressing the serious issues raised in the 2016 report, the PAC chairman found himself addressing what he considers a non-issue. Mr. Edgel said the APNU-AFC was attempting to hide from the record, explaining that the report examined key issues raised in the Auditor General report of 2016, such as the large number of vacancies at the level of the 10 administrative regions, overpayment to contractors by budget agencies, the lack of reimbursements, full payments for incomplete work, or work not even started, and late delivery. He said all those were in breach of the Procurement Act.
This report reminds us that we still have scales that were paid for that are not yet produced. Scales that were paid for in full. That is why we had this diatribe, to attack the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governments and to deal with quorum. This report speaks to the performance of the APNU-AFC in 2016.
Edgell said that while reviewing the period, the committee had difficulties locating many of the accounting officers who were appointed by the then APNU-AFC government. Minister Edgell also said, though preaching about good governance, transparency and accountability, the coalition failed to live up to its promise while it was in office. More news coming up in just a moment.
Something big is here. GTT presents the moment you've all been waiting for.
'Tis the season to drive with GTT. Get your chance to be one of 4 lucky winners of a Toyota Raise. Plus, weekly giveaways and more. Simply activate a prepaid plan. Sign up for fiber and voice plan. Pay any 2 bills with MMG or join the GTT family. And vroom! It could be you. 4 Toyota Raises, 4 winners. Drive with GTT.
Giftland Office Max, we're all about customer satisfaction. Whether it's clothing and shoes for the ladies, gents, and kids, or for the latest electronics or hardware appliance, we're always thinking of satisfying you, our dear customers. Now you can shop online at www.giftlandofficemax.com or visit us at the Giftland Mall, where we're happy to serve each and every one of you.
Sorrel making, hey, garlic stirring, hey, ham and black cake eating. Now this is Christmas. 'Tis the season to get what you've always wanted with a little help from Republic Bank. Same day approvals apply online. It's time to make it happen for yourself and your family. Get cash back for the best Christmas ever. Sorrel making, hey, garlic stirring, hey, ham and black cake eating. Now this is Christmas.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
APNU-AFC Region 10 Councillor Mark Goring was today elected as the new Regional Vice Chairman of Region 10, Upper Demerara Berbice. Goring, who was a member of the Alliance for Change, was not the choice of the AFC leadership for the position. But when the regional councillors met this morning and the election of a regional vice chairman came up, he was the only person nominated for the position. And the nomination came from his fellow AFC members and later supported by the full council. Back in August, the AFC leader Kemraj Ramjatan had warned that there would be consequences if the AFC's official nominee, Coretta Braffett, was not supported for the position. Braffett was not nominated for the post by any of the councillors, and she too threw her support behind Goring. Mr. Goring's election to the office of vice chairman comes more than 1 year after the office was left vacant due to the passing of Douglas Gittins, who succumbed to COVID-19 in June of last year. Goring told news source that there was only one nomination, and with there being no other nominee, his nomination went through. In his acceptance speech, Goring said he was humbled to be elected regional vice chair with responsibility for Sub-Region 2, which covers the Kukwani and Ituni communities. He said the task at hand is big, but with wisdom, patience, and understanding and hard work, he will execute his duties without fear or favor in serving the residents of Region 10. The vice chairman also said the Ninth Council will provide maximum representation to the people of Ituni and Kukwani and all the villages along the Berbice River within the boundaries of Region 10. He said as a regional government organ, they believe that all politics is local. And today his colleagues have demonstrated that by electing a suitable candidate to serve someone with a background suited to understand the needs of the people of Sub-Region 2, inclusive of forestry, business and agriculture, they have shown that they are ready to take on the job. The regional officials said they will now move on with the work of the council across Region 10. Turning now to the world of business and commerce, businesses offering hire purchase services will now have to approach the magistrate's court in order to repossess an item for which 70% of the hire purchase price has already been paid. The new rule follows the passage of the hire purchase bill by the National Assembly. The bill, which was tabled by Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce Onish Waldron, received the support of the House. However, the main opposition, APNU-AFC, submitted that critical recommendations which could have resulted in consumers paying lower interest rates were omitted. In defending the bill on Wednesday, the minister said it creates a level playing field to guard against exploitative practices and sellers from unscrupulous customers. It was explained that under the new legislation, which also covers credit sale and conditional sale agreements, businesses would not be allowed to arbitrarily repossess goods when a substantial amount of money has been paid, or forcibly enter the premises of a consumer to seize items. Singling out Section 3 of the bill, Minister Waldron said under the legislation, businesses will be required to secure an order from the magistrate's court against defaulting customers.
This clause, Mr. Speaker, 3.4, is one of the most consequential provisions in the bill as it relates to consumer protection. It states that among the provisions that every contract must include are 1. The right of the buyer to terminate the agreement early, a prohibition on the seller repossessing the goods in the absence of a court order, where 70% or more of the hire purchase price is being paid. 3. An obligation of the seller to provide notice to the buyer of an intention to repossess goods where less than 70% of the purchase price has been paid. And the right of a buyer to make good on a breach, having had notice of intention to repossess.
Mr. Waldron said the bill is not lopsided, though, noting that the protection afforded to the buyers is balanced by reasonable protection for the sellers.
Take, for example, the case where the seller is obliged to give 21 days notice of intent to repossess. We can very well imagine an unscrupulous buyer on receipt of such notice may attempt to conceal or move the goods to avoid repossession. As we shall see, however, the Act imposes obligations on the buyer to promptly inform the seller on movement of the goods and imposes a significant monetary penalty for non-compliance. Additionally, there is provision whereby if the buyer decides to terminate an agreement early, he or she is obliged to make good on any arrears due.
Notably, under the new legislation, the Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission has been relieved of the responsibility of addressing some consumer complaints. The Magistrates Court now has the responsibility of facilitating dispute resolutions. APNU-AFC Member of Parliament Himraj Rajkumar told the House that the coalition does not have an issue with what is contained in the bill, but rather with what has been omitted. He said when the bill was sent to the Special Select Committee of Parliament, the opposition recommended that interest rates be regulated, but that recommendation was excluded when the bill was returned to the House.
Mr. Speaker, we have heard the cries of the Guyanese consumers that the total cost of purchasing under the hire purchase arrangement is very high. You have to pay the down payment, the compound interest charge on the amount owed, the high interest rate charged on the outstanding balance, making this type of transaction extremely expensive on the long run.
Rajkumar said oftentimes consumers are made to pay double or triple times the actual cost of the item on the hire purchase agreements. He said a clause should have been included to limit the amount of interest that could be charged on an item. His colleague, APNU-AFC Member of Parliament Amanzo Walton Desir, echoed similar sentiments as she lashed out at the government.
It says that it must be regulated, and if we agree that it is a matter that must be regulated, that is our role as regulators. It is our role as regulators, but you know, Mr. Speaker, This is the difficulty that I'm having with my colleagues on the other side. The lack of legislative courage that they display. Mr. Speaker, they stand there and they heckle about why didn't you do it from 2020, and they operate as if the history of Guyana in 2015. They had 23 years to do this, did absolutely nothing, and then come to say, people of Guyana, that you must be grateful that we have finally put this on the agenda.
But Minister Waldron in her rebuttal said a bill returned to the House after widespread consultation. She said the coalition did not object at the level of the Select Committee.
Get set, go! Guyana, get ready. It's the 60th National School Cycling, Swimming, and Track and Field Championships from November 27th all the way through December 2nd. Hosted by the Ministry of Education and the Guyana Teachers Union. The moment you've been waiting for is here. Come and see the top student athletes and teachers from 15 sporting districts compete in intense rivalries. Come and enjoy cycling November 28th at the National Park Georgetown and swimming at the National Aquatic Center Lilliandown. Witness the track and field action at the National Track and Field Center Lenora, West Coast Demerara on November 29, all the way through December 2nd. Action starts at 10 hours. The National Championships, where stars are born.
GBTI Quick Cash Christmas is back, just the way you like it. Get up to $500,000 easy for anything you want this Christmas. We ain't waiting on Santa. We buy and we own this Christmas. Apply at your nearest branch or online at www.gbtibank.com from October 15th to December 31st. GBTI, we see Christmas through your eyes. Terms and conditions apply.
A very Merry Guyanese Christmas.
A post-mortem examination conducted on the body of 75-year-old Agatha Gamel, who was found murdered in her Charity Essequibo home, has listed her cause of death as multiple injuries. Government pathologist Dr. Nihal Singh reported that the woman's body bore multiple injuries and wounds. The granddaughter of the elderly woman was arrested for the murder, but has since been admitted as a psychiatric patient. The 22-year-old woman, who recently had a baby, was found to be suffering from postpartum depression. She was seen leaving the scene of the crime covered in blood, with her baby in her hands, claiming that the baby was dead, while the baby was alive and well. Investigators arrested her after being alerted by persons in the area. The elderly woman, Agatha Gamel, was found badly beaten and stabbed and slashed to the neck. All of her hair was shaved off of her head and placed on the floor of her kitchen, with salt sprinkled across the room. The shocking murder has raised new calls for the issue of postpartum depression and mental illness to be given more attention. Let's tell you now that for the second time in less than 5 years, longtime educator Dr. Marcel Hudson has found himself handing over the position of Chief Education Officer. The Ministry of Education announced today the appointment of well-known educator Mohammed Saddam Hussein as the new Chief Education Officer. The ministry said Mr. Hussein has served as a classroom teacher for more than 20 years, and over the last 2 years he served within the Central Ministry as the Chief Schools Inspector and has been managing the efforts to restructure the Inspectorate Unit of the Education Ministry. Hussein was appointed as a senior education officer back in 2011, but he declined that position at the time. He has worked at the National Center for Educational Research Development, NCERD, the Sir Potter College of Education, and the Caribbean Examination Council. On Wednesday, he officially took over the position from Dr. Marcel Hudson, who will now serve as the Executive Director of the National Accreditation Council. Hudson retired from the position in 2019, but was re-engaged to serve again in the position following the change of government in 2020. The Education Ministry said he will now be responsible for conducting and advising on the accreditation and recognition of educational and training institutions, providers, programs, and awards, whether foreign or national. In welcoming the new CEO, Mohammed Saddam Hussein, the Education Ministry noted that in his previous roles he demonstrated a deep love and passion for developing the sector and transforming education and systems to meet the needs of present-day Guyana. The ministry assured that he will receive the full support of the Education Ministry in his new role.
Census takers are visiting communities across Guyana and collecting information from every household. This information will help the government to plan better for our country's development. All the information shared will be treated as strictly confidential, and everyone is asked to participate. No one should be alarmed about any question asked, because the answers provided will help to improve living standards, decrease community crime rates, and improve access to housing and healthcare, among other benefits.
The census gives us the tool to identify some of these important gaps that exist across communities, within communities, and across regions, so that we can have targeted intervention.
Yeah, we counting way from region 1 to region 10, the whole country. Yeah, we counting way.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor at the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, Brazil's lower house of Congress on Tuesday approved a bill that aims to boost oversight of the country's cryptocurrency sector after one of the world's largest crypto exchanges collapsed earlier this month. The proposal, which would see the sector regulated by a government-appointed federal agency, will now pass to outgoing President Jair Bolsonaro for approval. The new rules would apply to legal entities that exchange virtual currencies for local or foreign currencies, exchange virtual assets, conduct transfers, or are involved in financial services connected to issuers or vendors of virtual assets. According to local media, the bill would force all locally active crypto providers to have a physical entity in the country, with fines and even prison sentences for those breaching the new rules. The bill would, according to the media, give companies a grace period for compliance. The move follows this month's collapse of Bahamas-based crypto exchange FTX, which prompted investigations by Bahamian and U.S. authorities. Before the crunch, 30-year-old founder Sam Bankman-Fried secretly moved $10 billion of customers' funds to his proprietary trading firm, reported the Reuters news agency, citing two people familiar with the matter. Brazilian crypto advocates have backed the bill, saying it was important to establish rules in the industry. In neighboring Trinidad, although 2022 is now officially the bloodiest year on record in Trinidad and Tobago's history, with the murder toll hitting 555 for the year, the acting police commissioner, MacDonald Jacobs, says this still does not warrant implementing a limited state of emergency across the Twin Island Republic. He made a comment while speaking with reporters at the scene of a triple murder in La Ventelle on Tuesday morning. The Trinidadian Guardian newspaper reported that, sympathizing with the grieving relatives, the commissioner of police offered condolences and warned against revenge. He assured that the police will do their part in hunting down the killers. And finally tonight, international news. The BBC reports that a jihadist group, Islamic State ISIS, has announced the death of its leader, Abu al-Hassan al-Hashimi al-Qurashi. An audio message from the group's spokesman said he was killed while fighting what he called the enemies of God, but he gave no further details. The US said he was killed in an operation by the Rebel Free Syrian Army in southwest Syria in mid-October. He became leader in March after his predecessor blew himself up during a raid by US forces in northwest Syria. The spokesman named his replacement. As with the previous announcement, the spokesman refrained from revealing his real name, nationality, or background. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to have a safe and enjoyable night.